Welcome to Guitar Gear Stop, where today we look at the MXR Rockman X100. What is it? Where did it come from? And how did we get it in pedal form? Definitely the sound of the 80s. Do you remember that sound? It wasn't just Boston who had that sound. They all were using the same thing back then. The Rockman X100 headphone amp. Where did we get that? From Tom Scholz, engineer, guitarist of Boston, the band. Yes, Boston, the band. Back in the 70s, Tom Scholz was working as an engineer during his day job for Polaroid. And at night, he was trying to make it with his band. And he was trying to develop his own sound. That's where all these sounds came from. That's where the MXR X100 comes from. It's that sound that he worked on so hard to put into a little mobile unit, which later on he expanded to half-rack units. I had a bunch of them back in the 90s. I loved them. Which we'll get back to that later because MXR kind of missed the boat on some marketing that I'm going to point out in a second. You're going to love this one. Anyways, he even came out with an amplifier at one point. 2 6x9s, all the effects on board, MIDI capable, everything controlled with a MIDI board. I had one. It was beautiful. It was great. But everyone kind of, I don't know, maybe they stopped using it because it was old. Maybe they just didn't know about it. But back in the 80s and 90s, you would find this sound in way more places than just Boston albums. Hysteria from Def Leppard, that whole album, that was a Rockman. I believe the one before that too might have been partially done with a Rockman. Stevie Stevens, the guitarist from Billy Idol, used it on a bunch of his albums in the 80s. Joe Satriani used this on a couple of his albums back in the day. And ZZ Top, the list just goes on and on and on. The reason for this was, it was portable. You could bring it to your recording studio, plug it in right to the right into the board, like I'm doing here, and record your piece, and not have to worry about, oh, it's muddy because there's too much bass, or this isn't right, or that's not right. You can't hear it because of the drums. You don't get that. Tom has already done that work for you. It sits really nicely in a mix, and I think that's why everybody loved it. It went away, and now it's back. Now, MXR, which is owned by Dunlop Manufacturing, they bought the rights to all the Tom Scholz products in the 90s. And I don't know if anyone's like me, but now I'm thinking to myself, why did it take them so long to bring something out to us? I mean, Tom Scholz made some great stuff. And I did some digging, and I found out they actually did release a Tom Scholz circuit, but it wasn't marketed as a Tom Scholz circuit. It was a major, major whoopsie, as far as I can see, with their marketing team. Because the MXR Smart Gate, that's a Tom Scholz circuit. I had one. The half rack, great unit. But they never marketed it as such. You know, paint the thing black and blue, put the Rockman sign on it, and market it as a Rockman product, because that's what it is. Probably would have been able to get, I don't know, $200 instead of $149. Could have been $200. And it would have been more popular. I can pretty much guarantee you that. But despite them not bringing us anything for so long, they've brought us this new X100 in a pedal form, and it is fabulous. You heard in the intro, that was me with this guitar going straight into my R20, into my KRKs, all right? And that's it. The only other pedal involved is the switcher. and you get that sound. I mean, like, let's just pull it up right now. All right, let's get into it. This is our clean sound, bypassing the Rockman here. You'll notice you hear a little bit of reverb there. I added that in with the R20, so it doesn't sound so flat, but it really shouldn't affect what we're doing here. You have a couple of different buttons on this one. We have the volume, obviously, everybody knows what that does. Input gain. Now this one is interesting because this actually compresses the signal and will cause a little bit more breakup, especially on the edge and the distortion settings. You'll really notice it not only compress the signal, but it adds a little bit more gain to it as well. So input gain, that makes sense, right? So you can want to play around with that. You can get a lot of different sounds by playing around with that. This is all the different modes. We have clean 2 is what its default is, clean 1, edge, and distortion. We're going to go back to clean 1. We're going to turn it on. I am using my Paul Reed Smith Custom 24 quilt top with 8515S pickups going into my R20, into a set of KRK powered speakers. Like I said, added a little bit of reverb, and that's it. Very 80s sounding. This input gain, let's play around with this. We're going to bring this up. We're going to bring the volume up a little bit. Input gain way down, and let's see what we get. See what happens when we crank the input gain on this. Really affects volume, I'll tell you that. You can hear it compressing, even on the clean sound. Alright, now the kicker. What really brings in the 80s is this chorus secret. Got a very nice 80s sound, let me tell you. That is what we hear on so many different albums. All right, let's get through this real quick. So that is the clean 2 setting. We're going to go to clean 1. It's a little less nasally sounding to me. Let's get rid of this chorus. And then we're going to go back. Clean 1. Clean 2. Clean 1. Clean 2. You can hear a definite difference in the voicing in those. Definitely something you can play around with. You get a lot of different tones out of it. Anyways, moving on. We're going into the edge setting now. Now, this is where this input gain here really comes into play. Now listen, you hear that? It's fairly breaking up there, right? Now, we turn that gain up, input gain. You can hear how much compression gets in there. Down. That's with it down. This is with it up. It's a pretty big difference in the compression and how that comes across. I love it. Absolutely love it. Let's move on to the distortion setting. And this is the wild one. It sounds kind of thin to me. We're going to pull that up. We're going to pull that back a little. I'm going to crank it because that's where I like it. Absolutely love the way that sounds. And let's throw something chorus on that sucker. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely love the way that sounds. Absolutely freaking awesome. They did it. This is amazing. Now, the one circuit that's missing from this, unfortunately, is the echo. Now, on the original, like this one, its switch went clean 2, clean 1, edge and distortion. That's, I think, why that's set up that way. Now, they put the chorus in there, which is great, but you can't control it with an outside source. The outside source we're using is the MXR split tap. Now, that works for going through all the different modes. What it doesn't work for is switching the chorus. If you want your chorus on and off, you got to go down. Makes it a little bit of a pain in the ass if you're using it on a pedal board live. But really, if you're using this live, you're probably using the chorus anyway, no matter what you're doing. I don't care what you're playing. I think you're using the chorus. I mean, listen how awesome that sounds. It's just amazing sounding. It's so 80s sounding. There you have it. The Rockman X100 from MXR. Thank you, MXR, for bringing us back this classic. And thank you, Tom Scholz, for inventing it in the first place.